I do have one complaint.
Okay, let's hear it.
You're way more tan than I am.
Well, to be honest, I've had more of my share of yard work and walking and everything else this year than before. I think in my neighborhood, the whole neighborhood have the best landscaping and the best yards as ever before, with so many people with so much time on their hands.
Well, but I mean, I'm getting better. I go outside and walk all the time, and I've got some weird lights I had to kind of set up. But when I'm on the screen next to you, literally, I feel like it's like one of those old black and white comic strips, man. I mean, you're my shadow.
You got to get some vitamin D out there, Clint.
I got to get out more. I was fortunate enough to have a conversation with you on my podcast, During the Break podcast.com, or on Apple or whatever platform, Spotify. You came on over a year ago, and we talked about acting. You're a businessman. A lot of people know you're a businessman. You own your own businesses. You've run several. You're very successful. And a lot of people know that you've been in some movies and TV, but the podcast format allowed us to go a little deeper. So I thought me and you I'll bring up some ideas before I give you the list of people you've been with. You did acting in high school and didn't decide to pursue it past high school, right?
Yes. Yeah, I went to Bradley High School, and they would have what's called class night. So each class would put on their own play and everything, and I'd take a bit part in those, and it's just a lot of fun. But after that, nothing.
I actually had this conversation with a friend. I don't know, it's probably been almost 6 months ago. When I was in elementary school and even into middle school, but especially in elementary school, each grade had a play. 4th grade, 5th grade, we all had plays.
Yep.
I mean, I had to sing the Kenny Rogers song, The Gambler, at one of them. I was a Martian in one of them. I was on the beach as a bully in one of them. So, but then we get in high school and a lot of us are too cool for that. We don't understand that the people that stick with it get to do some really cool stuff like you did.
Yeah, it's late in life. This goes back to 42 at what was that, 2012.
Yeah,
just opened up a whole new chapter of unexpected adventures for me. So it's been crazy.
Well, let's do this. Let's start off with a list of the actors that you've worked with, because I said this on the podcast, and I'm going to say it again. No guest, zero, come more prepared for a conversation than Gary Miller.
Well, I don't know about that, but I'm flattered. But and I'll read this off. And let me preface this first of all, as I start out, especially before I read this list. No one has been more surprised at the unexpected blessings that the good Lord has provided me than I am. Just trust me on that. So don't know why that he has chosen me to enjoy these kind of life adventures, but I just say every day, thank you, Lord. So I'll just run down the list kind of from the top here, just as quickly as I can.
Gary, before you do that, I want to make sure that you say something, or we address it from the podcast. You don't consider yourself an actor.
Oh, no.
Okay. I just think
actors have real talent. We can get into that a little bit. I've been told that I have talent, but I don't see it. It's just, for me, I just do what comes naturally to me, and they seem to like it. So,
gotcha.
It's not like I do any great preparation or anything like that. But the list of these are who I've actually worked with on set, either actors or directors. Harrison Ford, Chadwick Boseman, Lucas Black, Max Gale, Jennifer Lawrence, Woody Harrelson, Liam Hemsworth, Josh Hutcherson, Elizabeth Banks, Will Farrell, Steve Carell, Paul Rudd, James Marsden, Shailene Woodley, James Franco, Robert Duvall, Selena Gomez, Ed Harris, Sam Shepard, Vincent DiFronio, John Savage, Zach Braff, Steve Martin, Chris Tucker, Tim Blake Nelson, the director Ang Lee, the director Clint Eastwood, Evan Longoria, Burt Reynolds, Gabrielle Union, Michael Perrioli, Queen Latifah, Ryan Gosling, Chris Evans, Regina King. So
I've heard a few of those.
That's crazy.
Well, and I want to apologize. Technology is kind of weird sometimes, so you're freezing up a little bit, but that's just internet, and people are okay with that. I've heard a few of those names, and I want to talk to you about one specifically in a minute because it's made news for not good reasons. But I forgot you worked with Steve Martin and Chris Tucker. What was that on?
That was Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk. That was directed by Ang Lee and was the first real experiment with the ultra resolution movie with the special cameras and everything. I was a Texas aristocrat in that, and I worked a scene several days for a Thanksgiving. The Cowboys were playing another team. Steve Martin. It was Thanksgiving at in Dallas. Steve Martin was the owner of the Cowboys, and he was having a big banquet for his friends. And the soldiers who were there in that particular movie, they were being honored as heroes. And so, I was one of the aristocrat guests for the banquet.
We didn't get to that one last time. Hey, turn your volume down just a hair, if you don't mind, just a little bit, because there's a little bit of reverb. Either it's that or it's sitting on something hard and solid, which is fine. Yeah, that list of names that you mentioned is a really long list, and I want to take the same format we did on the podcast.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you about some movies or some TV shows, and if it's got some stories behind it, stop and tell us a story about an actor or the set. If it doesn't, just say pass, like a game show. Just pass, and we'll go to the next one. Are you okay with that?
I am. If you don't mind, let me go back to where you were headed, because I think it's only appropriate right now for me to pay homage to Chadwick Boseman, 42.
Yeah.
Just an extraordinary guy, humble, unassuming, an amazing talent, gone much too soon. He was just fun to be around, just a good soul. So,
well,
it just hurts my heart. It just hurts my heart that he's gone.
Man, he's so young. And I heard another interview that you did that between takes or whenever he wasn't on, trying to, he doing his thing, he would practice Tai Chi.
Yes.
Which I found very cool.
Yeah, it was interesting. I asked him, I said, why, why are you doing that now? I mean, it was like in the foul territory over next to, like, I was over at first base at that time. I said, tell me about it. He said, well, this really helps me de-stress and relax when I've got a big scene and, and I've got to really focus. This takes my mind away from what I'm doing and puts me in another place for a few minutes, and then allows me to come back in at a much lower stress level, prepared for the scene.
That kind of confirms what we've heard since his passing, and that is that he was a professional. He took his job serious, but like you said, he was also a very nice guy.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
And I'm glad you interjected that. I had it on here we were definitely going to spend some time, but I think you placed that at the right spot. Let's kind of start at 42, because that, if I'm not mistaken, that's where your adventures began in the acting world. Am I right?
That's correct. That's correct.
How in the world did you just fall? Did you go down there one day and they needed you? How did you get into that?
On the radio, I heard them. I was in the office, and that morning I heard on the radio them announce that they were having tryouts for extras at Eastgate Mall. And I've always been a baseball guy. And so I just thought, what the heck? And I just stopped what I was doing, took off over to Eastgate, stood in line with hundreds of people, had a clipboard that they would hand you, filled it out. And they had it's like an assembly line going. And you would hand them the clipboard. They would hand you a number you would hold in front of you. They'd take a frontal shot profile, and then boom, you were gone.
Have you ever been arrested? Because if you've ever been arrested, that's nothing new.
Knock on wood. So far, not. So I hope my that continues. But weeks went by, never heard from them, and I was hoping to be able to sit in the stands and just to see how it was done. You know, movie guy, baseball guy, just wanted to see the process. And then, but the evening when I got in and I told my late wife Sherry about it, she said, "Well, did you tell them you had umpiring experience?" I said, "No, I didn't." She said, "Well, let them know." And so I sent an email. But then, again, weeks went by, nothing. Then it was like a Thursday evening. I got a call, "Could you be in Atlanta Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock to audition for an umpire's role?" Sure, I can. So went down. There were like 18 or 19 other guys from all over the Southeast, all of them active umpires, and went through the process, went into the room, had the conversation with Brian Helgeland, the director, and then boom, out the door. The others, the 6 or 7 who were ahead of me, I was timing it. They were each in there about 15 minutes. I went in, and whenever he said, "You know, thank you very much," and the casting director said, "We'll let you know if we need you." And I walked out the door, looked at my watch, 7 minutes. So I thought, oh man, I knew, okay, I blew that. So, but several weeks went by, and midweek I get a call saying, "You've been selected as a major league umpire to work on 42, and gave me the directions down on Crutchfield Street Friday at 7 o'clock, Friday evening, be there for a wardrobe fitting. And that it just, everything snowballed from there.
Did you practice, you know, like a special safe call, or did you put a little bit of extra in the out? Did you do anything like that?
No, but Brian did ask me to do a safe and an out call during the interview, which I did. And one of the really, what I thought was interesting, as we were filming, I ended up getting upgraded from, you know, you have an extra that works the background. You have a featured extra, which I was an umpire because, you know, I was going to be on screen and everything. But I got upgraded to actor status with some lines. But there was one scene that I worked off camera where Harrison Ford was in the stands, and he had to give a reaction shot to Jackie being called out when he was obviously safe. And so I had to come down, and, you know, he's in the box, the camera's on him, but I'm right in front of him. And at the appropriate time, I had to give the "you're out" shout and the signal. And so we must have done that a dozen times. And so, you know, I'm standing there when I'm standing there about to do it, I'm thinking of, how am I going to do it? How am I going to do it? And then when they said action, it was really odd. I just automatic, just "you're out." And every time after that, I never even thought about it. No prep. And that's what I've always done. I don't think about what to do. I just react, that so it would, you know, appears natural and not really thought out. And that has always seemed to work. But that was pretty scary.
Well, and did you do out the same way each time, or did you do, again, not thinking about it?
Yeah, no, every time. And that's one of the real keys. That's a really good question that leads to when you're on the set and you do the first take, if the director says, "Okay, everybody, that's good," then what you're expected to do is every take thereafter, whether it's 1 or 2 more takes, or if it's 24 more takes, you're expected to do exactly the same thing the same way. And they, after a take or two, they may tell somebody, okay, you need to move this way, or you need to react this, a certain way, until everybody's on the same page if there are multiple people in the scene. And I've just been fortunate, again, knock on wood. I've never done anything so far in any production that's because of me. A scene has to be reshot or done over again.
Yeah, you told a story of Harrison Ford when he had to have a reaction and he was wiping his glasses off, and it took like 12 takes. But his pause, where he stopped, how he did it, everything, every take was exactly the same.
Exactly the same. Just it was really interesting to watch his process as far as the little nuances that he put into it that would just be very natural, but obviously he had thought all of that out well ahead of time, exactly what he was going to do. And every take, it was exactly the same until it was done exactly right.
One of the things I got from our first conversation, because I want to get to some of the other cool stories on other sets, and we'll miss some stuff, and that's fine. You can go back and listen to the podcast. But I was struck with how little ego there is. I mean, you told stories like on 42, when I think it was assistant director or whatever they call him, had him and Jim Reynolds had a little tiff.
Well, I've told this story dozens of times. It's one of my very favorite stories from 42. Is that they needed an extra umpire. I got in touch with Jim. He was able to come work, and he was able to work the first 4 days. There were 14 days of filming. He was able to work the 4. Had to go back to work at the radio station, then do his regular gig. The 4th day, Brian Helgeland was the primary director, but Alan Graff was the baseball director, who was out on the field a lot of time with some of the specific scenes, with setting them up and everything. If you can picture, if you're familiar with Dick Butkus, picture a lighter-haired, big, bulky, gruff Dick Butkus, very aggressive, very, very, very gruff, and they were setting up a scene, and we umpires were gathered around watching, around, I think it was like second base. And Alan was saying, okay, do this, do that. And Jim was standing there, and he said, well, actually, he would be doing this, and made a correction. And everybody froze. And Alan looked over at Jim. He said, are you directing this, or am I? And Jim just, you are, sir. He just laughed, you are, sir. It's all you. It's all you. And so it went ahead and finished the scene. Now, Jim was gone after that. Now, those first 4 days, we got our box lunches and everything like everybody else. The next morning when we came in, one of the ADs, Ben White, who was responsible for running herd on us and keeping us together when we needed to be on set or needed to be sitting in the stands, he called us all over. He said, last night in the post-production meeting, there was an incident that happened on the field yesterday with you umpires that was discussed last night. And he said, Alan was really upset. And we're just kind of standing there, okay. We thought, well, okay, good, Jim's gone, so we can't get him. Long story short, Alan was not aware that we were all real umpires. And he didn't find out about it till that night, and he was furious. And so Ben said, we would like to invite you from the rest of the production, to invite you to join the cast and crew when we have our meals with lunch or anything, which we did. So we got to eat with the actors and everything. But when Alan came out on the field that day, and he walked up to us, just shaking his head, and he used some very explicit profanity about what happened and apologized. And he said, guys, he said, if you see us doing something wrong, you let me know. Now, we may still need to have to do something the same way just to be able to get the angle, to get the shot. But, we want to do this right. And from that point on, it was just, we were part of the production. It was really cool.
Well, and in the podcast, you told several stories like that about people like Will Farrell after a scene, Harrison Ford or Clint Eastwood when you left a dinner. They would look at people, not just you, but they would look at people who weren't on the marquee. They're not the big names, and they would say, "Hey, thank you for the good work you did today. We appreciate it." And I found it refreshing to hear that, from behind the scenes, their egos, they may be out of control elsewhere, but they seem to be in check. And it just made me feel good.
I've really never worked with anyone who I would consider a prima donna. They were always very professional, very nice. I mean, that was like, when I finished up working on Sully, and we had dinner, and when I was about to leave, when I was I was at the table right next to Clint Eastwood, and as I got up to leave, when he said, "Hey, thank you, you did great work today, I appreciate it," that really kind of tells you the type of person they are. Example, with Will Farrell, I did a scene with him. It didn't make the cut in Anchorman 2, but just the two of us. And when they had me set there, ready with the cameras, and he comes up and introduces himself like I wouldn't know who Will Ferrell was,
Right.
but he introduces himself. And then when we get finished, rather than just walking off, he shakes my head and says, "Thank you for for working with me today. That was fun," which it was. But they're just the more I've worked with, they're ordinary people with extraordinary talents. Is what it really amounts to.
That's a good way to put it. But the scene with Will Farrell, if I'm not mistaken, was a pretty good one, because you had to keep your composure while he was coming in and out over your shoulder, saying just random things to kind of make you break up. And your job was not to break up, right?
Yeah, the camera was like 2 feet in front of my face, shooting upward towards me, and I'm supposed to look directly into the camera, and he would stick his head right in next to mine and say something about me. And some of the stuff, just the whole crew, after he would say it, they would just be breaking up, which was really funny. And some of it was obviously not going to make it into the movie with some of the stuff he said. But it was tough to keep the straight face. I was supposed to just be looking stern the whole time.
Let's get into a couple more stories, but before we go down that road, you've already answered one of them. I was going to ask you if you've seen any good arguments or fights between people on set, but if there's no prima donnas, you've not seen any good fireworks, have you?
No, I really haven't. It's
that's silly.
I'm sorry, that's pretty dull. I know, Clint.
Make up something, lie.
These folks are professional. Time is money for them. They don't have time for that.
Well, one of the things, and I do want to get into some stories, but one of the things that I want to ask you about, though, is the directing styles, because even though you've been in the scenes, even when you're not in the scenes, you get a front row seat to what some of the best directors that we've ever heard of in the last 20 years. So have you found one that you like better? Have you been surprised that they're so different, or are they very different?
Yes, but I've been privileged to see and participate with two of the most opposite directing styles out there. When I worked with Ang Lee, I took direction from him on Billy Lynch's Long Halftime Walk. He is a super detailed perfectionist. I mean, even to the point when we were setting up for the banquet, he was coming out, and there was a roast pig that was on the banquet table with an apple in its mouth, and he comes out, and then also a peacock. He adjusts the peacock's head, takes a handkerchief out of his pocket, and puts a little bit of shine on the apple, and then notices a smudge on the glass, a small smudge in the background, and instructs somebody to get that cleaned off. And then one of the scenes that I worked there, I was at the table next to the main dinner table where the soldiers were. And I got to sit there for 6 hours as that scene was shot, listening to him give direction on the shoots and the reshoots to each of the actors to get the facial expressions, etc. So he was extremely detailed. Clint Eastwood, wow, could not have been more the opposite. Mr. Eastwood was there. Here's the way it's going to go. Here's what I want you to do. Okay, let's shoot it. Boom. 2, maybe 3 takes. We're done. And that was it. Moving on.
Did you feel a difference in the way the actors responded to each, or were the actors professional and actors no matter what, or did you sense a difference in how they responded?
A little more tension as far as for the actors with Ang Lee, because they knew that that he had real specifics that he wanted. I know that one of the things that I noticed, Tim Blake Nelson, who played a congressman on there, before the scene he was in, he had his script and he was going over it to make sure, and I could tell he was really nervous because he was wanting to get it right. And but with Eastwood, the set was more loosey goosey, just low pressure, low key, but he got the results that he wanted.
Did he tell you to get off his yard, get off his lawn? Like he did.
No, but I've seen that. I've seen that movie.
That's a great movie.
It is a great movie.
Okay, let's jump into this because we're approaching the 30-minute mark, and I don't want to keep you too long. But I'm going to go through and name some TV shows or movies you've been on. Again, since we don't have unlimited time, if it's nothing great, just tell me to move on.
Okay.
If there's a story to tell or a character or something, feel free to stop me. Let's see here. Let's do this. We talked about 42. Avengers Endgame. That scene did not make it, did it?
No, there's a fraction of a second you can see me, but the cool story about that was, which was very unusual. I was contacted to see if I would be available to work one day on a particular scene, and they wouldn't tell me anything about it. Just, are you available this day? And I answered yes. And then after that, they said, okay, we've got probably a half a dozen guys for a particular role, featured extra role. We're going to submit it to the directors for them to choose who's going to be that role. And when I had an inkling when the word directors was used, because typically it's a director. And so I'm blanking out on their names, but for the Avengers, the brothers who were the directors on that, they chose me to be the role in that last scene with Chris Evans, where he's there with his girlfriend, and the camera pans through the window and they're dancing, at the end of the movie, which is supposed to be, from that standpoint, with Captain America, the climactic scene of it. So that was really a cool day.
Let's see here. Sorry, there's a little feedback there. First Man with Ryan Gosling.
Yes, I was a Senate staffer there at a White House reception, and there were 2 other actors involved along with Ryan Gosling. And this was it was set in the 60s, during the space race time when the military and everything. So it was an interesting scene. They used handheld cameras as opposed to the more stationary or the ones that would be on the rollers. They wanted to get a particular look there.
Let's Star with Queen Latifah.
Yeah, she was a trip. She was. It was so funny between takes on the scene. We were standing in hall. I was a TV network executive, and there was a map of the United States on the wall there. And so we were standing there, and she was trying to. But the states were there, but they didn't have the names on them. She was trying to name the states, pointing at them, trying to figure them out.
Well, I also think people would be surprised. She started off a long time ago as a rapper, a female rapper.
Yes. Yes.
And then I was surprised, a long time ago when I started realizing she could sing. She's got
some pipes.
Some jazz music.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's see. The Last Movie Star, that was with Burt Reynolds.
Yes. What I remember most about that was, and I was it was for a film festival, and I was one of the festival people there inside. And when he came in, he was pretty feeble, but they got him up on the stage there where we were, and he sat there. But what I remember the most about him was he still had that twinkle in his eye, that spark. And he with the ladies in the room, he was making nice little comments to them, and of course they were just loving it and responding. But even all of his years with all the stunt work he did had really taken the toll on him, but he still had it.
Well, for people wanting to know the Burt Reynolds I grew up with outside of Smokey and the Bandit, feel free to go look up Gator McCluskey, and you're welcome for that, sir.
Gotcha.
In Dubious Battle, there was a huge cast in this one.
It was an ensemble cast. That was a movie that James Franco put together, and he really just invited all of his friends to work in it. And my best memory from that was the scenes that I worked with Robert Duvall. That was the reason that I worked 10 days on that movie. I typically, other than 42 and that one, I typically don't work on anything that's going to be more than 3 days, usually a one and done. But had a scene with Robert Duvall, and there were only 4 of us in the scene. And so between each take, when they were readjusting, there was going to be one. I said, well, it's going to be about 10 minutes before we're ready to go again. My favorite movie of all time is The Godfather. 1 and 2, that's it. He was in a good mood. He started telling funny stories about when he was working on The Godfather, some of the pranks that they pulled on Coppola, and just everything. That was a magic moment. That was one of those things. One of those times that really stood out.
Wow, that is very cool. Hey, and I've got to send a text real quick, and this is the beauty of live Facebook. But I'm going to send a text real quick, and then I'm going to move on. And then I had another one here that I've got to pull up. Let's see here that I really like. I want to get into a little TV. My daughter's leaving, so I've got to wave. I got to wave by. Go. It doesn't matter. You've done some TV too. Do you like one? Hey, I've got a friend at the door. Hey, how are you? I'm good. Do you like TV better than movies?
I like movies.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. It's I've always been a movie guy. I mean, I enjoyed working with the TV, but I like to go into a theater and sit in the dark and just be immersed in that. I've really missed that for the last
I do too.
6 months or so.
One thing that, and a lot of people that know me will laugh and say I had no choice, but I did have a choice. I don't mind going to movies by myself at all.
Yeah.
I enjoy that, going to focus on the movie and just being able to enjoy that. Evidence. Let's see here. Let's go through some of your TV. Evidence of Innocence and Murder Chose Me. Those are a couple of the TV shows you've been on.
Yeah, I was actor. I had an actor role and had lines in both of those. I played detectives in each of them, and one of them with the main character, found the murder weapon in a shed, and was in the interrogation room. Those were kind of fun. When you have good lines.
Well, let me ask you about that. Being the detective, I know it's make believe and going back to being young, but there's a license to be something other than yourself. That you actually do you enjoy letting that side of you come out where I'm not going to be held accountable for what I'm really doing. I'm an actor. I'm being somebody else. Isn't that fun?
It is fun. That's part of the appeal of everything to me. I kind of like the best the roles where I'm kind of stern and like in Watchmen, where I was one of the 5 captains of the one of the 5 captains of the New York City precincts and everything, because the people who know me know that I'm pretty much an old softy and everything. So when I get to do something that's a little more out of character, it's kind of fun.
You don't find it difficult to be something that different than who you are, or was it actually kind of freeing?
Yeah, it's kind of freeing, actually. It's where you're able to just kind of let go and okay, if I were really a bad guy, this is what I'm going. This is who I would be.
Okay, one more question, then I want to show you a picture and you can walk us through some pictures. Of all the stuff you've done, is there a movie that you would want to have a bigger role in, or an actor you would want to have more of a role with?
Boy, that's a good question.
That's why I make the big bucks.
Boy, yeah, that's a tough one. Well, I mean, Duvall is one of my very favorite actors. If I, probably that movie, Billy Lynn's, in Dubious Battle, and working with him, having a larger role, with that, just to be in his presence. It was one of those. It was inspiring to see his work. He was there, and he's older, he's pretty feeble, but he would be kind of slumped, and he used a cane, but when James Franco said action, it was a physical transformation. It was amazing to see okay, here's Robert Duvall. And his voice strengthened, his back straightened, and it was him in all of his glory. It was that was pretty cool.
I can tell by listening to you how you like being the tough guy in the movies, and Robert Duvall. You would have been a pretty good gangster in the Godfather. You would have been that. You would have liked that, I think.
I would have loved that.
Hey, I want to pull a picture up, and there's a reason, because there's 2 stories behind it. We'll wrap it up with this. So that picture that I started off with, and I don't know if people can see it, but you have a bright yellow jacket and some plaid pants. and before I set this up, that's for Anchorman 2.
That's correct.
And I'll set this up though. You had to go in in the night. You were a 1970s Anchorman, right?
Correct. I was a GNN newsroom reporter.
I'm gonna be honest. They did a great job giving you a really good outfit, right?
You're setting me up all right, teeing that one up. Good story. When I was asked to go down to wardrobe, I'd mentioned to Rose Locke, who was the casting director, I said, I think I might have something that might work. And she said, well, take it with you. So I go down to wardrobe in Atlanta for the fitting. Walk in, and you have all the different wardrobe people working, and the main wardrobe lady. I come in, and I've got it in a garment bag that's all black, can't see through it. And I said, I think I may have something that might work. And she almost literally did an eye roll, saying, yeah, okay, go ahead over there and put it, in the dressing room, put it on and come back out. And I walked out, and the jacket and the pants and the shoes, I had bought those in the mid 70s. That's a Jack Nicklaus blazer and J. Morris Sandsabelt slacks that I had put back in the closet, and I've worn them a couple of times to some costume parties since then. And when I come walking out, she does a double take, and she walks over, and she reaches and touches the jacket, and she says, "This is authentic, isn't it?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am, it is." I said, I told her, and she brought everything to stop. She called all the wardrobe people over, and she said, "Can you believe this?" And she said, "It looks brand new." And I said, "Well, it's all polyester." I said, "It looked like this in 100 years. So that was pretty fun.
And let me back out and go to this. This one right here, I already know what 42 is, but you have an eye patch. What movie was that for?
That was Hunger Games: Catching Fire. I was a District 12 hog vendor. District 12 was where Katniss, the Jennifer Lawrence, that was her home district. And so they asked me to let my beard grow out. So that's like a 9-day growth. And the interesting thing there was that this was in October when I went down to work on it for, I think it was 3 days. I went over to Hamilton Place area, and there was a Halloween store, and I went in, and I found and I bought that eye patch, and I took it with me to the set and put it on after I did makeup, and they actually dirtied it up to make it look very old. And I put it on, and because I had that eye patch, there was a big scene at the reaping scene where there were probably 800 extras where Katniss was going to be in the front. And Ben White, the AD from 42, saw me. How he recognized me, I don't know, in the crowd. And he said, "Gary, is that you?" And I came over. We talked for a second. He said, "Come with me." He said, "I love the eye patch." He said, "Come with me." Took me up to the very front and positioned me with Katniss's family. So I'm standing there with the mother here, the daughter just in front of me, and her boyfriend on my right shoulder. And so, I got the little time there. But that's one of those roles that I enjoyed because it was so out of character. And at lunch, the second day I was at lunch, and the table was full except for one seat in front of me. Probably a girl in her early 20s sat down there, and she just kept looking at me, really, strangely. And I'm talking with some of the others at the table. We're talking, and finally I look at her and she says, "You're not at all what I expected." And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "You look so mean." She said, "But you're just a regular nice guy." And I laughed. I thought that was hilarious. I thought, okay, well that's good. I sold the mean evil guy look.
Well, I hate to break it to you. That means you're an actor.
Now, no, just blessed.
Well, and Lawrence is pretty. The girl that played Katniss, what's her name?
Jennifer Lawrence.
She's a character off when the cameras aren't. She's actually probably more entertaining when there's no cameras on her, isn't she?
You're exactly right. In that scene when we were set up, there was an aisleway, and Woody Harrelson, when everything was being set up, Woody Harrelson was walking down through there, and I saw her coming. She came running up from behind and just ambushed him, just literally jumped from behind on and put her arms around his neck and wrapped her legs around him, and just and almost took him to the ground. And he rolled her off and everything, and they were laughing. She just just like a kid, just enjoying herself, not taking anything too seriously until it was time for the cameras to roll, and then it was all business.
Well, I just want to say thank you again for the stories. I've had some new ones today that you didn't share at the podcast, so that makes me happy. The listeners who may not have gone and listened to the podcast have got them for the first time. And I'll just say this, maybe in the next couple months or next year, there's other news that you may be breaking that we'll get you back on and talk about that may be pretty cool.
We will see, but thank you very much. I appreciate the invitation. I'm flattered, number one. I hesitate telling a lot of these tales out because I don't want people to think I'm bragging, because I'm not. It's just right place, right time, and like I said, starting out. For some reason, the good Lord seemed to bless me with these unexpected great adventures, and I just give thanks every day and go forward with that, Clint.
Well, I will say this. One of the things that I think the reason people the last 6 months especially have gravitated towards conversations that are not all about politics or all the unrest, because we used to be able to turn to sports, and we can't turn to sports anymore because it's everywhere. I think people like, that's the reason I have these conversations. People like the fact when I talk to Bobby Butler, a former, NFL player, or what you do, or a businessman, or just cool people. So we can kind of experience something just for a little while. That's something we don't get to do ourselves. Vicariously, we can live through you. And it's a little bit of a break from all the other stuff going on in the world. So I appreciate the fact that you took the time to come on and share some more stories.
Well, I kind of look at this as an archive. The reason I've immediately accepted is that the fact that, I've got 2 adult daughters and a soon-to-be 15-year-old granddaughter. So this kind of gives them going forward in the future, something that they can refer back to and, listen to Dad and Granddaddy, tell some of his tales.
It's a great reason to do it, man. I appreciate it, Gary Miller. Thank you so much, and God bless and be safe, man.
Right back at you, my friend.
Yes, sir. Bye, and thank y'all for watching. Bye, everybody.